Welcome to the Victory Podcast.
Hey Victors, welcome to this episode of The Victory Show. If this is the first time you're joining us, I'm Rachel Leake with Bestseller by Design. Our founder, Travis Cody, is the best-selling author of 16 books, and we've had the privilege of helping hundreds of business consultants, founders, and entrepreneurs write and publish their own best-selling books as well. Through that journey, we've discovered a fascinating pattern. Most businesses really struggle to break past the seven-figure revenue mark. On this show, I sit down with some of the world's most successful CEOs, leaders, and business owners to uncover the strategies they used to scale way past that mark so you can do the same. So get ready for some deep insights and actionable takeaways that you can implement in your life and business starting now. Today's guest is Pedro Lopez-Sela, an accomplished innovation strategist, entrepreneur, and venture capital leader with over 30 years dedicated to scaling transformative ideas and empowering organizations worldwide. As managing partner at FrissOn Capital, Pedro invests in pre-seed frontier technology startups across Latin America, capitalizing on the intersection of deep tech and the world's most pressing challenges. The firm takes an active, hands-on approach, leveraging financial expertise, entrepreneurial experience, and growth strategy to help startups bring ambitious ideas to market. In addition to his role at Frison, Pedro co-founded LeapStart, a platform driving innovation from the Global South in collaboration with governments, universities, and multilateral organizations. He is also the co-founder of ITE Salud, advancing health innovation, and serves as head coach at Scalingness, where he mentors entrepreneurs and leaders to build and scale impactful businesses. Pedro has coached over 15,000 leaders across the Americas, Asia, and Europe. He has authored and co-authored influential books alongside global thought leaders, including Clayton Christensen, and shared stages with visionaries such as Carlos Slim. Recognized internationally as an innovative impact entrepreneur and active citizen, Pedro is passionate about driving transformative change, fostering cross-cultural collaboration, and helping the next generation of entrepreneurs reimagine what's possible. Pedro, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So take us back to your origin story in this space. What inspired you to jump into the world of entrepreneurship and support others in their entrepreneurial journey?
So I would say that I started really young as an entrepreneur. I started my journey when I was 16 with my first company. And I would say that it was something very random, just an opportunity that came up to me that I just decided, to jump at it, which in a way was very, very positive because by the time we've closed our second client, we were broke. We just didn't have any clue of how to manage processes, grow the company, scale, and all that stuff. The venture lasted for about a year and a half only. But then after that, we started getting good at it. And the journey about supporting other entrepreneurs, I would say, it was at the beginning nothing planned. The group of people that I had professional relationships with, the people that were either my vendors, my clients, or my partners, we got together and we decided back in late 90s to start a non-for-profit, to give back in a way. And the first idea that came to us after searching possibilities was understanding that in places like Mexico at the time was producing almost the same per capita number of computer engineers as India. But Mexico had no industry, which was a failed public policy. And we decided to create a school of business capabilities for computer engineers. And that basically led us to a journey that we would have never, ever anticipated. 6 years later, 2003, we had offices in 5 different countries in Latin America. We had offices connecting with Global North in Tokyo, Silicon Valley, and Vancouver. We started exporting Latinos. And that basically led us to work with some entities, especially in science and technology, like the National Science Foundation of the US, for example, helping them build programs that support entrepreneurs, which is what we've been doing for the last 25 years.
Amazing. And you said it was kind of unexpected, this growth over 6 years. Tell me, what was your original vision and what made it take off in such a rapid clip?
It was based on a purpose, I would say. Now you hear a lot about the MTP. I'm a big fan of what Peter and Steve are doing with the massive transformative purpose. Back in the day, it was kind of like called a mission or what you were, in this life for. At the time, what we wanted to do was push for social mobility. So it was not really a return of investment. It was not even an impact. We just wanted to help people to have a better future.
And so what did that scaling process look like in terms of team build out and capabilities that you needed to add?
In a way, it was very difficult, but very complicated at the same time. It was very simple because the process of recruitment was again based on the purpose of social mobility. We ended up becoming one of the largest machines on the planet for building scientific ventures. But that was part of the journey that we understood. In the beginning, what we actually wanted to do was give people a little perspective, help them economically so they could socially have a better level. And we understood that the easiest way to do that was knowledge economy. And the best way to impact knowledge economy was through entrepreneurship, specifically scientific entrepreneurship.
So help us put the timeline together. You have Frison, Leapstart, ITE, Salute.
I know
You've
it's
got a lot going on, and which is really
Yeah.
exciting. But how did you, and they're all large scale. So how did this all come together?
So what ended up happening is that non-for-profit that I mentioned to you basically worked like a brick and mortar foundation up until 2010. On 2010, we understood that in order to move in a more agile manner, we needed to digitize everything. So we ended up building what became the first digital company builder in the world called Canoe. And that gave us a lot of agility because we were able to operate cohorts all over the planet without the burden of paying real estate. And what happened is that back in 2020, when the pandemic hit, the COVID-19 pandemic, we by then had ran about 70 cohorts worldwide. And we decided to run one cohort specifically focused on economic growth. We understood that even though the pandemic was going to be difficult, it was going to end at some point in time. And there were very few organizations focusing on economic recovery. So we decided to run a program similar to what you might see with accelerators. Companies that we were looking for were basically those that should have a very rapid growth, meaning that they would hire a lot of people. So we ended up going back to that community that we had been working for the last 20 years, asking, for pro bono and for giving back time. And we were able to run the largest company builder in the world with 300 startups from May 2020 to December. And that's what basically led us to FrissOn Capital. After we ran that cohort, some guys from an interesting, important innovation association in California bought the company builder from us. And the firm, the VC firm that we have right now, is basically the step we took after selling that company.
Wow. You mentioned global expansion, which is an avenue of scale that we don't often hear about. Tell us how that came about and how you knew that was the right step for scaling your company.
One of the advantages, I guess, that I've had in the last few years is that most of my projects have started in the Global South. And the Global South, especially when you're talking about technology, impact, alternative assets, and that sort of thing, it's very small. So the only option that you have in order to scale is to go north, meaning go global. So most of the stuff that we've been doing, both as an entrepreneurs and as supporters of entrepreneurs, are sourcing the right problems, the right entrepreneurs, and the right technologies from the South, and looking for ways in which we can scale that at a regional or global level.
Tell us a little bit about FrissOn Capital, where you've spent your time after selling that prior business, and how did you think about growing the platform? What areas to focus on for your investment thesis?
So one of the things that we understood is that capital is a very powerful lever for directing impact. And for that reason, we decided that it was time to start thinking about venture capital, because angel investment was not going to do it. So we decided to create a vehicle. It was easier for us to build it in the US. Dollarizing it would de-risk automatically all investments in different geographies. And then we started doing mapping of different industries that would be interesting for us to impact. And we came with two after the result of about 3 years of understanding different skills for the future, different industries, different regulatory frameworks across the globe. And right now we have two big efforts. One is based in Manila, And from there, we work with Southeast Asia. The other one is based in Latin America. We work with many multilateral entities that help us build scientific ecosystems, entities such as the World Intellectual Property Organization. But what we've come to understand is that vocation is critical. You need to understand what are the capabilities, the infrastructure, and the skills of the people in the specific geography. So for Southeast Asia from Manila, we're basically working on Web3. We have a company builder called Evodine. We have a venture capital fund called CCAP, and we manage a network called Angel Network Philippines. And there we're pushing stuff related to blockchain, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. On the other hand, in Latin America, we did a research of the different industries that would find, an interesting growth in the next few years. And one of the ecosystems that we found that was very interesting to us was health, because basically we were able to map around 3,500 startups that were raising pre-seed and seed capital at the moment. This is back in 23, 24. But the interesting thing is that even though they were supported by incubators, mentors, accelerators, some even invested by angel networks, none of those organizations that supported the entrepreneurs were specialized in health. And when you try to do something in the health industry, you better be supported by somebody that understands FDA, because if you don't, then it's going to be a mess for sure. So that's the reason why we decided to start working on the health ecosystem from the Americas. And that led us basically to building a network of innovation hubs in North America, creating programs of pre-incubation and incubation that we've ran since 23. We've ran 3 editions so far. We've trained around 1,000 scientists in the sector. We've trained 56 startups in 2 cohorts. We just launched the 3rd incubation program. And for the first time, we're running an accelerator for startups that are raising $1 million.
Wow. That's incredible. And as someone who has done a couple of accelerators, I know how impactful those programs can be. So it's really wonderful that you're looking at supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem, not just from a capital perspective, but also from the mentorship and all of the structure that comes from an accelerator and helping them to specifically prep to get more capital. Tell us a little bit about what that early team at FrissOn Capital looked like, because you continue to reference the team. You mentioned having someone who has FDA and health expertise on the team. What did pulling the team together look like?
So again, based on purpose and understanding that what we wanted to do is specifically focus on health, but in general, push for knowledge economy. Most of the people that are part of FrissOn Capital are people from different countries in the region: Chile, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Canada, US. But everyone is interested in knowledge economy, and everyone is interested in health. So I've been blessed by a group of partners and venture partners that have been in the space of entrepreneurship and private capital. The youngest probably for about 15 years, the oldest probably for about 30 or 40. These are people that one of them created the first corporate venture capital on the planet, a person that created the venture capital ecosystem of Latin America, the guy that ran the Pharma Association of Mexico the last 15 years. It's basically humbling, I would say, the kind of people that were willing to join FrissOn Capital.
And that relationship building, it sounds like, is a key strength of yours, having those people over many decades continue to work with you. What do you think is the secret to building healthy, long-term working relationships?
I would say probably purpose and transparency. We are not politicians. We're not diplomatic at all. We're just entrepreneurs. And whenever we see bullshit, we just call it. And we know that because of the purpose, everyone has a thick enough skin to handle a tough conversation. So that's the way that we've been doing things since we started.
Speaking of having thick skin and tough conversations, tell me about a time where you faced a bump in the road as you were growing your business, people related or not, and how did you overcome that?
That's a tough question because there have been so many. The team that I've been working with, we've been broke as a group 3 times. And when I say broke, I do mean broke. Literally go to your dad and ask for allowance at your 30s, 40s. It's been crazy. I would say that usually, since purpose has been the North Star of what we've been doing, then that has led us into building a very powerful community based on gratitude. And that has helped us along the way. Because what has happened is that whenever we hit a bump, what we do is basically go back to the people that we've been supporting for the last 2, 10, 20 years. And usually somebody helps doing whatever is need to be done.
What was a tough strategic decision that you had to make at scale, and what impact did it have?
Probably the most difficult one was selling the digital company builder that I was telling you about. It was our baby. It was our legacy. It had been a project that we had been nurturing for more than 20 years. And it actually took a while, because again, it started as a non-for-profit focused specifically on impact, philanthropy, legacy kind of thing. But at some point in the conversations, what became very, very obvious for all the team was that the guys that were offering to buy the company builder had such an impressive relational capital, networks, experience, even capital, so much so that it was going to be impossible for us to support that company builder as they would. So it was an awful conversation that we had probably about the end of 2020 when we got the offer. But, at the moment, I would say that now that we're seeing it with a bit more perspective, I think we made the right decision. These guys are doing fantastic things with the tool that we created. And we're really proud of that because we would have never been able to take it to the level that they were.
I mean, it sounds like a real passion for the underlying mission, which you mentioned earlier, is important as you think about team building, but also knowing when to let your little birdie fly, it sounds like was a really hard decision, but one that you could be really proud of based on the impact that they've continued to have. Tell me about an underrated tactic or some approach that you think you've taken that consistently produced outsized results for you as you've built and scaled your different organizations.
One of the most important, probably I would say, is doing the right thing for the right reasons. And the example I would say is building these pre-incubation, incubation, acceleration programs, even though as a VC, we should only be focused on investment. But in a way, that is a way of paying forward. It is not uninterested. We do not get equity of the startups, but it's a fantastic way to de-risk my investments. It's taken a while. We've been doing this for 3 years so far. And again, as I said, trained thousands of people so far and not taken equity from any of those. But right now, what I'm able to see is that I have a very robust pipeline. And now that I'm starting to provide the checks to the entrepreneurs, I've been already working with some of them for about 12 to 18 months at least. So I really know the people that I'm going to be investing in. And now that's why I have ITE Salud, which is a non-for-profit focused on entrepreneurship and innovation. We built the programs, and once we were sure that they were successful, we created the non-for-profit, sent all over there, and now I'm back at investing.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people that you have mentored over the years is pretty incredible. What
It is.
Really, it is. What is the area of expertise that they typically seek out from you?
I guess what I've been focusing on is the present. There are a lot of people that focus a lot on technical capabilities, teaching you how to manage a spreadsheet, how to do financial planning, how to understand valuation. Of course, I think those things are valuable, but I also think that if you're able to build a proper leader, then that leader is going to be able to manage a way to find the specific skill set of that spreadsheet, either in a consultant or a vendor or an employee. And what I see lacking a lot, unfortunately, is the leadership capabilities that enable the leadership team of a company so that they understand that there's humanity. The big difference, I would say, is how to build leaders that are focused on leadership, understanding that they manage teams of people that as individuals also need managing, but in a very humane way. Some of the things that we see as entrepreneurs or even as investors is that leaders are focused more on building technical skills. And we do think that somebody that is built for leadership is going to be able to manage a way to get that expertise in managing a spreadsheet or managing a PowerPoint presentation or understanding payroll. And you can get that through an employee, through a vendor, through a consultant. But what's still lacking, unfortunately, is that capability of the leadership team of a company in many cases where they're able to understand the humanity of the teams that they manage. And once you build that empathy from the leadership within a company, things are totally different. The way that the company starts thriving is completely different.
And tell us, how did you actually get them to understand those leadership skills? I mean, I think in a mentorship relationship, you are somewhat removed. And so how did you convey that in the meetings?
It's usually some exercises that we do where we basically take them to situations where they can start putting themselves in the shoes of the other person, which is probably something typical of, psychological therapy and that sort of thing. But we rarely see it in the business universe or the business scene. And once you're able to do that, again, and you start to make sensible that situation of that individual maybe having a personal problem, and because of that, having a bad day at work, and the CEO a bit more empathetic about it, then results usually start to show pretty quickly.
Amazing. What does victory look like to you today?
Victory. That's a big word, I really don't know. I would say for me, something that is really, really fulfilling is being able sometimes to show at expos or give a keynote and have people approach me, people that I unfortunately, for some reason, do not remember, but I trained them or I coached them or I invested in them 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. And they come back in a very grateful way, sharing the story of how I made at least a tiny difference in their lives. And probably that's the closest to victory I get.
Amazing. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I guess humility. It took me a while to understand it. Unfortunately, at the beginning, very early, very quick, I was very successful. And that led into a ton of situations where I was very, very arrogant. And fortunately, life had a way to show me how not to be arrogant. If somebody would have told me that before, maybe they would have, saved me a bit of pain.
Excellent takeaway. Pedro, thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation.